Jamie Beckett. Jamie Beckett. Today is a little bit different. We
Yeah.
normally you start the party, but I'm going to do it today because we have a special guest and a friend of mine from TRACON. Before we get into that, though, let me just ask you to remember to like and subscribe because, as Jamie said, it's the law of the land. You have to do that, and our metrics like it. So like and subscribe, and thank you very much. So let's get right into this. I'm excited today. I really, really am excited today. I've had this voice in my head for the last several years whenever I fly in Houston's airspace. And whenever I hear her voice, I know everything is going to be just fine.
Ooh.
So we've got Diana Connolly with us. Diana is a recently retired, at a very young age, by the way, air traffic controller from Houston TRACON. That's approach control for those of you that don't speak acronyms. And Diana's had been doing it for a whole long time. So, Diana, welcome. We're glad to have you.
Thanks.
Tell us a little bit about what your background is. I know you're a licensed pilot or a certificated pilot, to be precise.
Right. It's been a minute since I've been, in my Tomahawk back in the day.
There you go.
Yeah. So I did it for 25 years, just retired at 46. I went to Beaver. I don't know if anybody knows when I say Beaver, what that is. So Community College of Beaver County outside Pittsburgh. That's where I went to school, associate's degree. Then the FAA just sends you, they connect with Beaver and they go down the list of hirees. And I don't even know if this is currently how they do it. I'm so far removed from that. I probably need to check before I talk about Beaver. But so they go down the list and first one gets their first pick of facilities. And my choices when I graduated were Mobile, Birmingham, and Montgomery, Alabama, and then Fayetteville, North Carolina. And so at the time I was, Pittsburgh was kind of my home and New York is my real home. So I chose North Carolina. Was there for 7 years. And then I was like, I got to get out of here. I got to go work the big traffic. This is just too small for me. It was a great starting point though. I'm really glad I went to a small facility right off the bat. I learned all the basics and I bid every single big facility in the South. And at the time it was really hard to move when you were young and you didn't have much experience, but I got on a plane to Houston and I literally begged my way into Houston TRACON. And they were like, okay, we'll take you. That was 2005. I was 27. And been here ever since. Didn't know one single person in the state of Texas, but I moved here by myself and just was like, I'm here to work some traffic. And I worked a lot of traffic in all those years. And that's it. Yeah. That's my career.
In a nutshell, you worked a lot of the West Side, which I think you guys call the Wild West in Houston, right?
It is, yeah. So for the first 3/4 of my time here, I worked the East Side. So, and then I moved to the West Side. So I've been certified at every position at Houston TRACON. And the West Side, it's a little wild. It can get a little crazy.
Yeah. How long does it take to get certified on a position?
I mean, every position is different, right? We have departures, satellites, everybody's comfort level is different for positions. So some people like departures, but other people don't. I mean, start to finish, I don't know, 1.5 to 2 years to do all the positions, but it just depends too on where you're coming from, what your experience is, just everything. It's just different for everybody.
Yeah. All right.
But it took me about 2 years. I mean, back in the day, because it was different then. And, they put you through a lot.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, having been up there a time or two and looking and I don't know how you guys keep track of it all. I really don't. It's amazing.
I love it. It's so much fun. Yeah. I can see how when you don't really know what's going on, it's like, even when I had 7 years under my belt from Fayetteville and I came here, I was kind of like, what is this? This is a lot of planes.
Jamie, you got any questions for Diana? I know we've got a bunch of questions on our list.
I do. I have one that's not on our list because, Diana, you were an approach controller. One of the things that I think is weird for a lot of pilots is they see approach and departure in the same frequency, and they don't know, am I talking to approach or departure? And my theory is it's the same person. What's your insight to share with all us dumb pilots who don't know
I
what
mean,
to say.
there's so many variables that one answer is not going to suffice. Like, I don't have an answer for you. I mean, approach, just if you're looking for who do I call you, what do I call you, and who do I call it, just say approach. I mean, because we combine sectors, we decombine satellite sectors or working departures. Like, um, when you get to the lower facilities where it's kind of that pie airspace where it's surface to 10 and it's just, chunks, it's different than how Houston TRACON is structured. So I don't really have a good answer, but if you're looking for what to call us, just say approach.
I like it. And I got one more.
Yeah.
What about the dreaded unable? You give me an instruction,
My
whether it's
favorite.
clouds or fuel, whatever. Can I say unable, or is somebody going to hunt me down?
I mean, you can always, okay, so you should always be honest. You should always really tell us what's going on. Don't hide anything. But if you are enabling us, I mean, be prepared to be asked what's up, because I have to form a plan to help you. And if all I'm getting is unable with no information, it's kind of putting all of us in a bit of a pickle. Does that
That's
does that
good
help?
insight. I like that. So if you're going to do unable, tell them why you're
And
unable.
it doesn't and it does not have to be a long thing. I mean, give me 3 words, like what's going on, because we know a little bit about what you're going through. We don't know a lot. Just keep us in the loop. Communication is key, you know? Probably stuff your spouse always told you. Communication is key. Just talk to us. Tell us what's going on.
I love it. So, there's a lot of, I don't know if controversy is the right word or not, but there seems to be a lot of different opinions on what the best way is to call up a controller to introduce yourself and ask for help. What do you want to hear from us when
So
we
when you
key that
say
mark?
help, are you asking for like an emergency situation, or you're just
Flight
looking for an
following.
initial call up, flight
Like flight
following?
following, or even checking in from being handed off. It's probably two different things.
Yeah, yeah. So, I'm going to just reference Houston TRACON stuff, because when you're at a smaller approach control, you have the time, right? But Pat, as you know, man, Houston gets pretty intense. Um, I do not have time. I just don't have time. And I worked a lot of satellite traffic. So it's kind of like, I just need you to give me like the bullet points here, So stuff that pilots don't think about. When you're calling me up, I'm memorizing everything you say. I have a recorder in my head, so I'm memorizing it. I'm committing it for a second to my head. I'm then typing it into my keyboard. So anything superfluous, I'm weeding out. So things that help me are not saying November. I want to hear Cherokee. I want to hear Seminole. I want to hear Skyhawk. I want to hear Skylane. I want to hear all. I don't ever want to hear November unless you just can't come up with something that I'm going to know, you know? Um, so, I mean, if it were me, I would just do approach. This is Cherokee 12345. We're just west of Hooks, requesting 4500 to College Station. Unkey, give me a second to process. And then I'm putting it in, right? I'm typing it in, and then I'm going to get a code for you. So then it's going to be for me, okay, Cherokee 12345 squawk 6721. And then I'm going to unkey, and then I want you to put that in your transponder, and then I'm going to say Cherokee 12345 ident altimeter 2992. And I don't want to see that ident until I ask you for that ident, because it completely defeats the purpose. Does
Yeah.
that make sense of the ident?
So how do you feel about if I were to call you up and say Houston approach, Skyhawk 12345 request? And
That's good too, because not everybody can handle all of what I initially said. Everybody's different.
yeah,
But for me, and I don't work anymore, I'm okay with the Cherokee 12345 is just west of Hooks. We want to go to College Station, or we want to go to Alpha Uniform Sierra without the kilo, which
yeah.
leads me to probably the next thing. you
Okay.
know, um, yeah, just give me those things. Believe it or not, just saying that Cherokee or Skylane it alleviates like 5 syllables, you know. And some people make fun of me because I'm always like, I don't need the extra syllables, even in communication with people, because I'm just trying to get as concise as we can. Give me everything I need. But yeah, keep in mind too, like when you guys are calling me, I'm heads down on my keyboard. So I'm trying to memorize what you're saying. So that goes to, let's use prescribed phraseology that's clear and concise.
You mentioned TRACON. You're not in a tower with windows. You're in a building with concrete walls and computers. I wonder how many pilots actually realize who they're talking to, and the fact you're not looking out a window trying to pick them out with your binoculars. You're looking at it electronically.
Yeah, 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 there's lots of us out there, lots of different types. And for me personally, I was in a dark room, which was amazing. I loved it. And so, you know, we're doing, and then as you're calling me up for flight following, I'm memorizing what you're saying. I'm typing it in, but I'm also scanning my scope to make sure all those VFRs out there are not running into each other. Because as we know in Houston, it's kind of the jam of the airspace to run into each other.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
so there's a lot going on. Yeah. So clear and concise is very helpful.
If you were to call traffic and the person that you're talking to says something back to you like no joy, or say something like tally ho or something like that, would you rather hear negative contact or traffic in sight?
Now I know no joy and tally ho. Maybe that's a thing of the past. I don't know. It's perfectly fine for me. But yeah, so one little thing that happened one time, I think Pat, I already told you the story. So I had this guy flying and I was giving him traffic and he was like, I got eyes on that traffic. And that was how he responded to me. And I thought, because I'm kind of a sarcastic person. And so I was like, does that mean you see the traffic or you are looking for the traffic? Like I really thought it could have meant either. And so, I tend to teach a little bit on the frequency. So I said, verify you have traffic in sight. Yeah, I got eyes on that traffic. I said, sir, verify you have traffic in sight. And I just kept going because I wanted this person to understand, like, you're not saying it right. And I'm confused.
Yeah.
Took about 5 transmissions. And I said, and I was like, do you mean you have traffic in sight? And it was just made me laugh.
That's
Yeah.
really interesting, though, because, we talk a lot about proficiency and really knowing what you're doing and upgrading your skills and your judgment. And I'm wondering if, Houston being Houston, 2 Bravos, a bunch of non-towered airports around, maybe it's a good idea when you're relatively low time or inexperienced to just make a decision. I'm not going in there until I really get good at this radio stuff. And I just say that because when I was flying in the Northeast, New York Center, miss 2 calls and they cut you out. They're just too busy. They don't have time to
Yeah.
hold your hand. But 100 miles west of there, yeah, we got all the time in the world.
It's definitely a thing. I don't even know how many flight schools we have in the Houston airspace. I mean, through COVID, it really exploded. And I can see that they definitely do cater to all over the world, which is great. But man, there are some times where I'm like, I don't have time for this. I really don't. And, especially working final at Bush, right? Like if one of those Uniteds does not answer me in 2 seconds, like I've lost my base. Now you're going last. So like the Uniteds know, like I'm literally going to give you 2 seconds and then I'm keying up again. I was definitely more lenient on satellites. But yeah, it would be nice. And, maybe you guys can clear this up for me. I heard that there's some playback feature on radios now inside the cockpit where they can click a button and it replays the last like 15 seconds. That was happening towards the end of my career. And I was literally like turning to everybody next to me going, what is happening? I don't have time for this. Like, this is bad. I can appreciate wanting to make sure we're on the same page, but holy cow, like it was definitely not good.
That's a really good point that you make. Some of the newer intercoms that are out there have a play button. And if you push it once, and again, different intercoms work different ways, but the one on my airplane, if you push it once, it just plays back the last transmission, so the last 4 or 5 seconds, right?
I'm sorry to laugh, but it's like, as you know, when you're on like 123.8, right? 119.7, Pat, like ain't nobody got time for that.
No.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry that I'm laughing.
No, I get that, and I will tell you, I rarely use that option for exactly that reason because at where we fly, you don't have time for that. Um, it did come in handy the other day. I was going into Conroe, and the controller told me something. They weren't terribly busy, but he told me something that just made no sense. So, did I hear that right? It's one of the very few times I pushed that button,
Yeah.
and it still didn't make any sense. And so, obviously, key the mic and said, "I'm not quite sure I understand exactly what you want me to do." And he said, "Thank you for clarifying that," and he did, and it was no problem. I'm assuming the same thing happens with you. If you say something, because you guys are paid to talk fast, we're not. And if a pilot says something to you, or if you say something to a pilot, and he or she really doesn't quite get what it is that you're wanting them to do, they got to question it.
Absolutely. I would actually rather you question me than give me that 15-second delay, because that delay where I'm hearing nothing from you is just escalating my irritation as to what's going on, because you know something's going on. Like I would know something's going on. So
Yeah.
say again, great phraseology.
I'm thinking there may be people watching this episode because there's at least 6 people that will see this
I
nationwide. At
love
least.
that. You know what? I'd really be glad if it were just 6, because I'm very comfortable talking to pilots about pilots, but nobody ever sees me. Go ahead.
Well, I was going to ask, what's your work day look like? Because there may be somebody that was saying, I never thought about that. I could go work ATC. What's it look like? I mean, do you do a 10-hour shift with your head down in a little cube and nobody talks to you, or is there a party going on? How does it look?
So I always tell people I had the best job in the world. I got paid to sit in a dark room with a cushy chair. I got to take breaks, and I got to tell people what to do. It was amazing because nobody in my house listens to me. So going to work for me personally was always a break. I loved my job. It To me, it was so much fun and relaxation, and it gave me a chance to just be myself. My work day was always like, we go to work. At the time, I was doing 8-hour shifts. Now I believe they're doing more 10-hour shifts because the government came out with rest rules for us, but that kind of happened after I left. So for me, it was always 8 hours. You go, you put your stuff down somewhere, you put your food away, you sign in, and you just wait for them to page you in. And then when you go in, you don't know where you're going to be working. Unless you're training, then you would know. So I walk in and it's go get the satellite or go get departure or whatever. The goal is to work no more than 2 hours on position at a time. You get relieved, you go on a break, you can go Netflix and have snacks and be back. And I mean, it just depends on the shift, right? Like if there's weather and we're running approaches into bush, and you're going to get like a 25, 30-minute break, maybe longer. The night shifts, you tend to get a little longer break because you're really scheduled for like the late night portion. So that once the sun goes down, satellites are not as busy. So we combine up positions. So work 2 hours, hour and a half, break, work, break, work. It just depends on what's going on in the day. Houston weather, storms are rolling through. They could have all the airports shut down. You're doing nothing.
If you come into a facility and you're working 8 to 5, let's say, that's not going to be your shift for like the rest of your career.
No, so everything is seniority based. So, our days off are seniority based. Our vacation is seniority based. Um, so, yeah, so every year we bid our schedule for the year. And then first in seniority gets to choose whatever days off they want, and it just kind of goes down the list. So the beginning of our week, now the rules changed, right? I told you guys that. So I'm just going to tell you how it was when I was in. So the beginning of the week, you're working a night shift, so like a 2 to 10 shift. Second day would be like 1 to 9 p.m.
Oh my.
Third day was like it could be a floating day. It could be a day shift, a midday shift. I liked to work 11 to 7 on my third day, so I didn't have to have that quick turn, is what we call it, where you're at work late and you're getting up early. Usually by the end of the week, you're working like 5 a.m. to 1. Some people like the mid shifts. I never liked those. little bit hard on me.
So
Yeah.
so throughout the course of the week, you're not there like, this week I'm working 8 to 5, next week I might be working 11
No,
to
it's
3.
rotating shift
Wow.
work. Yeah. So it kind of compresses the schedule so that it takes this and it puts it into this. So you're not spread out.
So what just for fun, what are some of your pet peeves? Any kind of stories, any kind of funny things or things that just made you pull your hair out or just kind of tell us some stuff.
Okay. So everything is specific to the person, right? Like that's one thing that I learned in all my years in working with as many people as I did. Everybody has a trigger, and everyone's triggers are different. My triggers were probably identing without being asked, long-winded on the frequency. Hey, I'm going to cancel my IFR and then I'll pick it up in a little bit. No, 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 no. We're not doing that. That's cool. You're going to have to call flight service and refile. And then it immediately was like, oh no, we'll just stay IFR or whatever. Yeah, pop-up IFRs, like towards the end there, it was like asking for flight following for a pop-up IFR. We have to get your information, right? Like souls on board, fuel on board, and home base is always what I asked for whenever I was doing a pop-up IFR. Man, and then probably hanging out on the final approach course, doing maneuvers, not talking to anybody. And I do recognize that Houston's a little bit tight. Like I was looking one day and I'm like, man, there's like really nowhere to go.
Yeah.
And not be on a final approach course.
Yeah, it's tough. I can tell you from the standpoint of being a flight instructor in Houston and as an examiner as well, it can be a real challenge. You go out west of town and you're on the final approach for TME.
Yeah.
If you're
TME is one of those places too where they don't have a debright. And that means, the tower is really relying on us for a lot. And I would always go the extra mile for TME because I knew they were kind of in the blind over there. If I was a pilot and I was, doing anything in the Houston area, I would do like a 15-mile bubble around TME and just not go near it.
That's for those that are watching and are familiar. You can go ahead and go on ForeFlight or something and look up Tango Mike Echo. It's a Class Delta airport on the western outskirts of Houston, and it's a busy little airport. But it's right in the way of a lot of stuff if you want to go out the west side to practice.
And
So,
Pat, a good note to add there too is Waller Skydive is right there. Like, do you
yeah,
know how many times I was like, just with the proximity of the skydive to the approach course, and I'm like panic vectoring everywhere. Yeah,
yeah.
there's a lot going on.
Jamie, do you have anything else you want to? We have an opportunity now to pick someone's brain here.
I do. I have one thing, and it's a
Okay.
little off base, but you started off this video encouraging people to like and subscribe, and normally I do that, and it's good. But wouldn't it be great with this population of viewers who are mostly pilots if we could have an air traffic controller just tell them to like and subscribe so they can't get out of it?
Okay. And this is actually really funny because one of my jokes at the TRACON, whenever somebody was acting just anything like crazy, sometimes you like the drama. So I always like the drama. So I'd always tell people, I'm like, like and subscribe. Whenever something crazy was happening or somebody was acting like a fool, I'd be like, like and subscribe. So it's very ironic that you're asking me. So everybody like and subscribe.
Perfect. I believe we have the ending we need, and we don't have to pay Diana overtime. We're out on time.
Yeah,
All
no,
right.
I'm good. I don't get paid anymore. I'm officially on retirement status.
All right, Diana, thank you so much. We may call on you again one day soon. This was fun.
Yeah, absolutely. Just keep in mind, my opinions are for Diana Conley from Houston TRACON. It's not laws, it's not rules. It's just things that have happened to me over 25 years.
Well, we sure miss you on the frequency, but I'm glad you're
I
happy.
miss it so much. Like, seriously, everybody's asking me, like, do you miss it? Whatever. I miss it terribly. All I want to do is tell you guys what to do. But I just didn't want to go to the airport anymore.
And I guess the appropriate ending for this is just frequency change approved. See ya.
Yep. Radar service is terminated.
Adios.